Hey everybody, and welcome back to another installment of Brand Federation's Beer and Brands. I'm Matt Williams, managing partner at Brand Federation, along with Kelly O'Keefe, our founder and CEO. And we're coming to you today from Isley Brewing Company here in Richmond. Awesome place and really, really great beer. So we're looking forward to having a terrific conversation about brands and some of the interesting things that are going on in the world related to brands.
Absolutely.
Before we do that, I want to introduce Josh Stamps, the head brewer here at Isley, who is going to tell us a little bit about what we will be drinking today. Yeah. Josh, you have beer and little surprises for us on the back.
Surprises for you guys. Absolutely.
Amazing. Amazing.
So what I've got, this is our Cosmic Cowboy. It's a hazy wheat-based IPA. Cosmic Cowboy is Galaxy and Amarillo hops is where we came that name from. So
terrific.
I hope you enjoy. And this is a traditional Czechoslovakian Pilsner. All Zatz hops. It's about as traditional as that beer can possibly get. So, you know, kind of a throwback to historical brewing styles, if you will. These guys are a special infusion we're doing for Cinco de Mayo. It's got guajillo and arbol chilies infused into the beer. So it's got a little bite to it, but nothing crazy spicy. I'm not a spicy food guy either. And then these are a version of, or our take on a Jamaican agua fresca. So a traditional kind of a sweetened hibiscus tea, only alcohol infused.
Unbelievable. All right, let's try. We got to try the Cinco de Mayo since it is Cinco de Mayo. Cheers. Oh, you've done something very good here.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Amazing. So we have lots of great...
And it's not too hot.
No, it
leaves
you a tingle and
really
it'll build.
nice.
If you
there
do a full pint, it'll
Yeah.
kind of work on your tongue as you sip your way down. So it's got a little spice to it, but nothing that's going to smack you in the face.
That is awesome. Well, Josh, thanks again for having us.
Absolutely.
We can't wait to dig into these beers, and we will be talking to Josh a little later in our conversation here. So we'll see you in a couple minutes.
All right. Excellent. Thanks, guys.
All right, Kelly, let's dive in. So,
all right.
As we did in our last installment, we answered some questions that we often hear clients ask. And the last installment was, okay, how do I talk to my senior management, my C-level executives about the power of a brand?
That was
we
a
talked
good
a
one.
lot
You
about
guys
that.
should watch that last installment.
You should watch that.
It was excellent.
That's right. This one, similarly, we want to address a question that we often get from clients, which is how should we think about balancing and choosing between internal resources that we build on our team and external resources and partners that we bring in from the outside. And as we were thinking about it, we started developing kind of the 5 criteria that we talk to clients about when they start to wrestle with this issue. And they are speed, how fast do you have to move, right? So that'll influence your decision.
Yep.
Objectivity, how confident are you that you have a truly objective view of the situation your brand is in, and would it value you to bring one of those from outside, right? That's the second one. Third is creativity. Do you need an infusion of creative thinking about your business, right? Fourth, subject matter expertise. Are there elements of your marketing mix that you don't know well enough to do an amazing job at?
Right.
And then the last one is the situation. There are always situations where you say, wow, we've never seen this before, or this is a super high stakes moment for our company where we might want to get an opinion from the outside. So speed, objectivity, creativity, subject matter expertise, and situation are the 5 that we look at.
Tell me about speed, how that impacts the decision.
So I think if you have to move quickly on a consistent basis, it may behoove you to think first about whether you can build those resources inside. Because external resources, I think as a rule, and this is a generalization because it's not always true, but generally may need more time to react because they have other clients, they may be geographically separate from where you are.
They also have to get up to speed on who you are.
Yeah, exactly. They have to learn your business. They may not know your business as intimately as you do. If you have to move quickly, you may think first about building that capability in-house. And social media and conversation management is a good place to start thinking about that.
That makes sense because it's breaking every day. You have to react.
Exactly.
Whatever is in the news or whatever is in the vernacular for that moment, you have to hit quickly.
Yeah, or you'll miss it. You miss the opportunity. And I think if you do that, it becomes really important for you to build the mechanisms internally to get things done quickly. And that means having resources who can do it fast, making sure those resources understand your brand really, really well. So writing a playbook for them to work from before you do anything, super important. And then the third thing is putting the approval process in place that can move fast. Because even the best internal mechanisms are only as fast as their legal approvals allow them to be.
Yeah.
And man, we've seen the legal approvals
That can
hold
shut
up
something down.
everything. That's right.
I like that because even if you've got an approach that might have been built with some outside counsel, if you've got a structure that can allow you to fly, to move, to make decisions, and get things done without a lot of having to re-examine it,
Yeah.
it allows you to respond to breaking issues more quickly.
Yeah, that's right. You can engage much more effectively. So, second thing we talk about is objectivity.
Yeah, that's a big one. It's one of the things I hear a lot about from our clients, where they'll talk about how if we get a outsider in, they not only bring a point of view that is objective because they're not inside of this organization, but they also bring some interesting benefits that come with objectivity. For example, you don't have a title and you don't report to anyone. Now, I never really thought of that as important, but I remember talking to a CMO client of ours at a Fortune 500 company who said, you guys have such an advantage because you don't have this person that you report to, which this person in the other department doesn't like.
Yeah.
You're not in the system, in the hierarchy. I might be able to have the same thoughts that you do, but I don't have the voice that you do as an outsider to be able to talk to anyone up to the CEO and down to the sales staff without really being in the territories that they work in.
Yeah, so not only are you objective because you're outside the organization, you're actually free in some ways that an internal person might not be to say things that an internal person might be hesitant to say.
Absolutely.
To speak to truth to power.
It does give you the opportunity to be very frank, very candid, very truthful. The worst thing that's going to happen is they're going to say, go home and don't come back.
Right.
Not a big deal. I haven't lost my job.
Mm-hmm.
And it tends to have a little bit more gravitas when it's come from an objective voice, hopefully that's done their research and their homework, so they have the experience to be able to make the recommendations they're making. But there's a little bit more power. The other thing about objectivity is internally you're trying to take this system that you already have, and if something's not going right, you're trying to fix it, the system that you have, because it's your system. Mm-hmm. But somebody from the outside might say, yeah, don't do that. Like,
yeah, right.
Get rid of that system. The system's broken. It would be more affordable and more efficient to create something new. So you just aren't in this protective mode. Mm-hmm. You can look at things with clear eyes and respond to it. And I do think that we hear that. One other thing that I often hear about objectivity is when it comes to research, it doesn't matter who you use for research, but never do research on the inside. Never do. I mean, it's one thing to do customer tracking research, routine stuff, mm-hmm. but if you really want to learn, it does help to have the person who is asking the questions of your customers or your employees not inside the organization.
Couldn't agree more. Now you can have an insights manager inside who manages the relationship with those outside research people.
Yep.
But if you have an internal research capability, I'd be very skeptical about that.
People aren't as open.
Yeah, right.
It's human nature that nobody wants to hurt our feelings.
Yeah.
So if I said, hey, Matt, how am I doing on this podcast? Probably not so good. I get it. Matt's going to say, oh, Kelly.
You're killing it.
You're doing
just
fine.
killing it.
It's awesome. If you go to an outside point of view who has no skin in the game, they're more likely to get a candid response.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a really good point. I think a kissing cousin to that is the third variable, which is creativity. And the more objective you can be, the more creative you can be. But in addition to that, creativity requires a certain flavor of talent that often doesn't sit comfortably within a corporate environment. And we've both been in ad agencies that are driven by creativity. And man, if we've seen anything, we've seen that the best creative people go into that business because they don't want to work in a corporate environment.
That's right. In some cases, they are literally unmanageable human beings.
That's true.
And in other cases, they just don't like the confines of a corporate environment, or they don't like the limitations of spending every day working on the same challenge.
Right.
They like the flexibility of going from a shampoo in the morning to an energy company in the afternoon to a nonprofit. the next day. And that doesn't happen inside of a corporate organization.
Yeah. Now it'll beg a question, I'm sure, from people out in the world to say, well, what about the growth of in-house agencies? It's been growing like crazy. And I think there is a line, if I'm a marketing director, that says there's work that can be done efficiently and quickly by an in-house agency. And that I don't want to pay the premium that I know I have to pay for an outside resource to do that kind of work. But it tends to be not primarily creative driven. It tends to be executionally driven. It's down and dirty stuff that has to get done. When you're looking for big creative ideas, big brand ideas, I think you are very well served to look to people who are paid handsomely to think completely differently about how to solve those problems. And those people tend to live in the creative departments of agencies.
I think that's true. And I do think I have met and worked with some really, really creative people who are inside of organizations. So it's not a universal rule, but even they will tell you, we can't get away with some of the things that we'd like to be able to do. We need to bring in an outside partner to help us pull that off.
Right.
And it's a great balance. One of the exciting things that you see sometimes is when you've got a team inside of a corporation and you've got a team in a consultancy or an agency, and you can't tell who's who. They're working together, they love each other, they're going for beer at a place like Isley together after work, and they're all sort of trying to conquer the same challenge, but they understand what permission each group has to get something done. That's a great situation.
That's great. And the best manager of in-house creative capabilities loves that kind of interaction. They're not threatened by it. They welcome it.
Yep.
And the combination of the outside resources and the inside resources are it's really powerful.
Yeah.
1 and 1 makes 3 in that situation.
I remember working with a really talented internal designer, and we were redoing the corporate identity system, and we brought in an absolutely staggeringly good corporate identity company called Chermayeff Geismar Haviv, who we work with a lot up in New York. They're just the best. And I was a little concerned that the in-house creative director was going to be very anxious about the decision to go outside. Instead, he said, can you get them to sign my book? Because he had their book in his office. And he was like, can't believe it. I get to work with these guys.
Yeah, right. That's the best of all worlds. So the fourth variable is subject matter expertise. And I think that becomes super important in a world that's changing as much as this world is changing, right? So I may be the marketing director of a company. I've been there for 10, 15 years doing my thing and helping this company grow. But man, I don't know a damn thing about Snapchat. I don't know a damn thing about these emerging media that are happening. I don't know how to run a programmatic media buy. But there are people out in the world who do.
Yeah. And especially now, it used to be that a long time ago, and this will date me, but in the world of marketing, we had 3 tactics that were on the letterhead: advertising, public relations, direct marketing. Well, now there's a million tactics.
Yeah.
There's a new social media channel. By the time I'm done with this beer, there's a new social media channel. There are interesting nuances to analytics where you need somebody really good at analyzing complex data and making observations about it. There are different flavors of research. It's a complex world. And being able to cover all of that internally is very difficult.
Yep. So subject matter expertise becomes really important, especially in an environment that's changing as fast as this one does. So keep your eye out for that. And then the last one is situational variables, right? So you could be in a period of steady growth for 5 years, and then your company hits a rough patch, or your company hits a competitive variable that you've never seen before, and you need to change the way you think about your marketing.
Yeah, we've all seen situational variables over the past couple of years. COVID introduced, the murder of George Floyd. We've seen the Ukraine crisis, the skyrocketing inflation. Each of these creates situations that are unique to the companies involved, and there are just so many more. You could have a merger to deal with.
Yeah, right.
Not everybody knows how to handle that kind of an implementation, that kind of a strategy. You could have a competitive threat that hadn't emerged before. You could have a communications crisis where somebody somewhere in the corporate leadership team did something they shouldn't have done, and now you're in the news, and it's a problem. all of these require the level of expertise that you probably don't have internally.
Yeah, and those situations will change the calculus that you've used to examine how important speed is, how important objectivity is, how important subject matter expertise. The situation changes the calculus for all the other variables.
Yeah.
And you have to be flexible enough to say, okay, I figured out those variables for the normal situation, and I'm now in an abnormal situation. How does this abnormal situation change the way I think about those other variables? And maybe I need to bring some people in that I haven't needed to bring in before, or vice versa. Maybe I need to pull some capabilities inside, given the situation I've got, where I was previously working with a partner.
Yeah, and the best combination there is to have both. Because inside, you're going to know that business better than anyone else. But those outsiders might know that situation better than anyone else.
Exactly.
And when they collaborate, you can often get to a great solution very quickly and have a high degree of confidence because you got that expertise that you're making the right decision. And there's almost nothing worse than when you don't have the internal expertise to even know if you're doing the right thing. You know, we know an entrepreneur who had a marketing lead in place 18 months underperforming and just didn't know whether it was that person's problem or whether there were other outside conditions.
Yeah.
When you have a situation like that, bringing in another set of eyes with a little bit more experience in that particular situation can help you figure it out and not have to blow 18 months doing it.
Yep. All right, so let's bring this one home. So if the question is, how do I weigh my options or think strategically about when I need internal resources that I should build or external resources that I could bring in from a partner? Think in terms of those 5 variables and start to weigh them in your mind. So speed, how fast do you have to go? How important is objectivity? How important is creativity? How important is subject matter expertise? And what situation are you in? And if you weigh those 5 things, you'll probably come out in a place that leads you to the right mix of internal resources and external partners.
I think you will, yeah.
Terrific. All right, we're back with Josh Stamps from Isley. Josh, tell us about Isley Brewing Company.
Isley Brewing Company opened in 2013, so we'll be 9 years in October. Our owner, Mike Isley, owns Winter Plumbing and Heating Company in Richmond, one of the oldest plumbing and heating companies in town. And he kind of saw the craft beer market starting to take off. And, initially, I think for him, this was more of a financial investment.
Yeah.
He was at Hardywood kind of counting cups and realized, the explosion that was going to happen here. And over that first year of us kind of getting things open and starting to brew beer and produce things, he's really switched very much from a vodka and wine guy to a craft beer guy. And he's really kind of discovered a passion for something that I think, he really wasn't familiar with before jumping into the game. So
yeah.
It's been an adventure for sure.
There's an
That's
almost
awesome.
natural connection between drinking a lot of beer and plumbing in a way that sort of fits.
No,
sort of fits.
fair.
It works on a lot of levels.
It works in there.
Some of which we won't talk about.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, great. Since we're talking about brands, tell us how do you think about Isley as a brand in the in the pantheon of multiple craft brewers that are here in town in Richmond?
We try not to put ourselves in a box. So you've got certain breweries in town, and they do wonderful IPAs, but IPAs are their game, or stouts are their game, or sours are their game, and we kind of try to do a little bit of everything. We're on a pretty small system here, which gives us a lot of flexibility to be able to try some kind of wild and weird ideas with things, use some strange ingredients, take some risks that I think some of the larger breweries probably just aren't in a position to be able to take. So it really kind of allows us to try a little bit of everything and kind of brew some stuff for the market, brew some stuff that's just way out in left field that myself and my assistant brewer Levi just kind of want to try, and try to be as flexible as we can and stay as creative as we can and have lots of fun.
Awesome.
That's great. Sounds like a lot of creative freedom.
As much as we can find, for sure. So.
That's great. So where are you, and where can our folks find Isley Beer?
Okay, we are located at 1715 Summit Avenue in Scotts Addition. We do distribute our product, draft as well as package sales. So we do have cans available in the market. You can find them at Kroger's. I know carries us. A couple of other larger grocery chains. Total Wine does carry some of our packaged product, and then draft kind of anywhere you can find draft beer in the city.
Awesome. Now here's the hardest question,
Okay.
right? Of all the beers you brew, What's your favorite? What do you drink?
Ooh, that's a tough
I
question.
know it's like choosing a child, right?
Yeah, it really is. They're all kind of my babies. I'll tell you, we brewed Rise 'em Sun for our 5-year anniversary. It's 5 hops. We dry hop it 5 times. We hop it 5 times during fermentation. It's got 5 different malts in it, and it's a big, bold, hazy IPA that's kind of a bear to brew, but a lot of fun to drink. So
Fantastic.
Oh,
That's great. Well, cheers to you and the folks at Isley for having us here.
That's right.
The place is
Absolutely.
awesome. Beers are fantastic, and come on by. You
Thank
won't
you
be
very much.
disappointed. All right, Kelly. Well, that wraps up another edition of Beer and Brands.
Fun talking
Here-
as always.
Always here from Isley Brewing Company here in Richmond. Come check it out. The place is awesome. The beer is great. And with that, we'll toast.
Yeah, something special here.